A struggling single mom spots a long-lost necklace on a stranger's table, only to discover a truth that will change her life forever. The cafe smelled of fresh-baked croissants and dark espresso, but Emily barely noticed. She sat at the corner table, rubbing her temples as she scrolled through job listings on her phone. Rent was due in a week, and she had no idea how she was going to pay it. Raising 6-year-old Lily alone had already been an uphill battle, but lately, life seemed determined to break her. She sighed and reached for her coffee, only to freeze mid-motion. Her heart slammed against her ribs as her eyes locked onto something on the table beside hers. A delicate silver chain glistened under the warm cafe lights, its tiny pendant unmistakable. A heart-shaped locket with a barely visible scratch on its surface. Emily's breath hitched. That was her necklace, the one she had lost over 2 decades ago. The one her mother had given her before she disappeared. Her pulse pounded as she glanced up at the man sitting at the table. He was in his late 30s, sharply dressed in a navy blue suit, his dark hair neatly styled. He was focused on a leather-bound notebook, jotting something down with quick, precise movements. He had no idea she was staring at the necklace in front of him like she had seen a ghost. Swallowing hard, Emily forced herself to speak. "Excuse me," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. The man glanced up, his piercing green eyes locking onto hers. "Yes?" Emily pointed at the necklace. "Where did you get that?" The man frowned, then followed her gaze to the locket. For a split second, something flashed in his eyes, something she couldn't quite place. "This?" He picked up the necklace, turning it between his fingers. "It's something I've had for a long time." Emily's stomach clenched. "It belonged to me." A slow, eerie silence stretched between them. Then, the man leaned forward, his expression unreadable. "If this really was yours," he said carefully, "then we need to talk. Because the story behind this necklace, it might change everything you thought you knew." Emily's hands trembled as she reached for the necklace, but the man held on to it firmly, watching her with a mixture of curiosity and hesitation. "What do you mean, the story behind it?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. The man exhaled sharply, as if debating whether to tell her something. Then, after a long pause, he slid the necklace across the table toward her. "Before I say anything, tell me, where did you get this locket?" Emily's throat tightened. She ran her fingers over the tiny scratch on the pendant, a flaw she remembered tracing as a child when she was nervous. "It was my mother's," she murmured. "She gave it to me before she disappeared." She looked up at him, expecting disbelief. Instead, his expression darkened. "What was her name?" he asked. Emily hesitated. "Sarah Lawson." The man inhaled sharply, his entire body tensing. For a long moment, he said nothing. Then he leaned back in his chair, rubbing his jaw as if struggling to process something. "I need to tell you a story," he said finally. Emily nodded, her pulse hammering. He cleared his throat. "I was 9 years old when I first saw this necklace. It was around the neck of a woman who was hiding in our backyard shed during a terrible storm." His voice grew distant, as if he were being pulled into the past. "I remember, she was terrified, wet, cold, shaking. My father was a ruthless man, the kind who didn't help strangers. But my mother, she brought the woman inside, gave her food, dry clothes. And she told me to never tell my father she was there." Emily's breath hitched. "I didn't understand at the time," he continued. "But I overheard my mother and the woman whispering one night. She was running from someone dangerous. And she said she had left behind a daughter." Emily felt her vision blur. "No," she whispered, her chest tightening. "She told my mother she couldn't go back, that if she did, the people chasing her would find her daughter too." He stared at the locket in Emily's hands. "The last thing she did before vanishing again was leave this behind." Emily's grip on the necklace tightened. Tears welled in her eyes. Her mother hadn't abandoned her. She had run to protect her. The man studied her expression carefully. "I never knew her real name. But when you said Sarah Lawson, I knew it had to be her. He let out a slow breath. She was protecting you, Emily. And someone, whoever was after her, might still be out there. Emily's entire world tilted. For years, she had believed her mother had simply walked away, that she hadn't wanted her. But now, a chilling realization settled over her. She had been in danger all along, and the only question now was, who had been after her mother? Emily sat frozen, her fingers tightening around the necklace as the weight of the stranger's words settled over her. The cafe around her faded into the background. Muffled conversations, the clinking of glasses, the hum of city life, it all became distant noise. Her heart pounded in her chest as the reality of his story sank in. Her mother had not abandoned her. She had been running from something. Someone. She swallowed hard, trying to steady her voice. Who? Who was after her? The man exhaled sharply, his fingers drumming on the table in a rhythmic pattern, as if searching for the right words. I don't know, he admitted. My mother never told me, but I remember something else. Something that never made sense until now. Emily leaned forward, her breath shallow. He lowered his voice. A few days after she left, two men came to our house. They wore suits, sharp, expensive, the kind that didn't belong in our small town. They showed my father a picture and asked if he had seen her. He lied and said no. Emily's stomach clenched. The men left, but I'll never forget the way they looked at us. Like they knew he was lying. My father told my mother we had to leave town. We packed up overnight and moved across the country. Emily's grip on the locket tightened. What did they want with her? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. The man shook his head. I never knew. But if they were willing to hunt her down like that, it wasn't just about her. It was about something she had. He met her gaze. Or someone she was protecting. A cold chill ran down Emily's spine. Me. For years, she had lived in the shadows of unanswered questions. She had convinced herself that her mother simply didn't love her enough to stay. But now, a far more terrifying truth was beginning to unfold. She had been in danger her whole life, and never even knew it. Emily's hands trembled as she looked back at the man. Why do you still have the necklace? She asked. He hesitated, then pulled out his wallet. Inside, he retrieved a small, folded-up piece of paper. It was yellowed with age, creased from being opened and closed too many times. He slid it across the table. I found this the day after she disappeared, he said quietly. It was hidden inside the locket. Emily's breath caught as she unfolded the fragile paper. The message was written in shaky, rushed handwriting. If anything happens to me, protect Emily. She must never know the truth. Her blood ran cold. The words were signed with her mother's initials. E.L. Emily's entire body went numb. Never know what truth? And more importantly, who had she been running from all those years ago? Emily's hand shook as she clutched the fragile note. The cafe around her blurred, her mind racing with 100 questions. Her mother had not abandoned her. She had been protecting her. But from what? From who? She looked up at the man across the table, her voice barely above a whisper. You kept this all these years? He nodded. I never knew what it meant. Until now. Emily's stomach twisted. If her mother had been running from someone powerful enough to send men in suits after her, then she, her mother's daughter, might still be in danger. She closed her eyes for a moment, breathing deeply. Then she opened them, staring straight at the man. I need to find out the truth. He studied her carefully, then reached into his pocket and pulled out an old phone. There's one more thing, he said. A number. My mother made me memorize it before we left town. She said if I ever heard from her again, I should call it. He exhaled. I never did. But maybe it's time. Emily hesitated only for a second before grabbing her phone and dialing. Her heart pounded with every ring. 1, 2, 3. On the fourth ring, a voice answered. A woman's voice. And the moment Emily heard it, her breath caught in her throat. It was her mother. But before she could say a word, The woman on the line gasped. Emily? Oh my god, you have to listen to me. You're not safe. The line went dead. Emily's blood turned to ice. The man across the table stared at her, his face pale. What happened? Emily's voice was barely a whisper. She hung up. The cafe suddenly felt too small, too exposed. The walls closed in around her. The pieces were finally coming together, but one thing was clear. This was far bigger than she ever imagined. And now they knew she was looking for answers. She wasn't just uncovering the past anymore. She was walking straight into danger.